Hello everybody, this is program 36 and we are heading into petal number 3 for a synthetic look at the energies related to petal 3. Program 35 was a long one and it was meant to be joined with program 34, which got truncated. So it will be a long one, but what I suggest is if you want to listen to it, you just make note of where you are when you discontinue, if you don't listen to all 5 hours of it at the same time. And then just move your cursor at the bottom of your Windows Media Player or whatever playing program you use, and simply then join in at that particular time. I think it will be convenient for you in that way. So, and this program too may be divided in half because I have a webinar later this night, and I don't think I have time to do the whole thing. So let's simply begin. We notice that we're using always this statement for the Hall of Ignorance, petals of knowledge. This tier of petals are organized and vitalized in the Hall of Ignorance, but remain unopened and only begin to unfold as the second circle is organized. And I've already explained why I think this is a general statement and why more detail is needed about it. Because, you know, the lotuses of passion and desire, well, their objective is the third petal, and if it is an objective, it means they're working at organizing. They cannot be working at unfolding. So that's the major objective, and it's hard to think of them having that type of objective and being able to work ahead into the love petals, and then having the Brahmic lotuses having a similar objective when they're so far behind, and that they would be working ahead into the love petals as well. It doesn't quite seem reasonable, but, you know, I will reserve judgment until I can think about it further. The opening quotation is, as is always, is from the two sections of Cosmic Fire, which are most related to the petals. So the first and most complete references are found in this area around 539. The petal of sacrifice for the physical plane. This unfoldment is brought about through the driving force of circumstances and not of free will. It is the offering up of the physical body upon the altar of desire. Low desire to begin with, but aspiration towards the end, though still desire. As man in the early stages of his evolution is polarized on the physical, much of this is undergone unconsciously and without any realization of what is being consummated. But the result in the causal body will be seen as a twofold increase of heat or of activity. The physical permanent atom becomes radioactive, or a radiant point of fire, and the three lower petals become vibrant and begin to unfold until fully developed. Okay, well, there are just some apparent contradictions here, and I think, you know, we have somehow have kind of a double here that we don't need. We've had that before. So it seems to me that when there is work being done in the sacrifice petal here, two petals may be unfolded already, and certainly the first may be unfolded. Everybody has one petal open, and some work is being done by someone in the Hall of Ignorance in the petal of sacrifice. So, you know, let's just say work in the petal of sacrifice. Okay, you know, I'm going to do this. P-O-S-A-C-R, and that will be petal of sacrifice. You know, I could do sacrifice petals, of course, petal of sacrifice, and some work is being done. Okay, I think there's all kinds of little things that have to be done first before this really works. Shame about that, but okay. Aha, there we go. So work in the petal of sacrifice is being done by someone. So let's say that you are working, you are a, let's say you are a, for instance, you are a lotus of passion and desire. And you are concentrating your work, because the only thing you can work is if it's the object of your attention. If the third petal is the object of your attention, then you have to be organizing and vitalizing, because that's all a man can do. He can't unfold. So this means that immediately ahead of you is your next field of work, and that already 2 petals are unfolded, and you are still working in petal 3, with petal 4 and petal 5 probably not claiming much attention. Well, what about those much earlier lotuses? They have been unfolded already, and yet you are still working in petal 3. So if it is true that the knowledge petals knowledge petals, and let me get that again. KKP TLS, maybe that will have to do. Knowledge petals. So if it is true that the knowledge petals can only unfold once work is being done in tier 2, in the love tier, then why are they unfolded already when a group of lotuses far ahead of the Brahmic lotuses is concentrating on working in petal 3? And if they are concentrating and working in petal 3, how can the Brahmic lotuses be doing that? So, you know, it seems to me, whoop, it's a good thing that can come back, huh? To me, it seems a very long wait to wait until there is organizational work in petal, in the love tier, before any unfoldment can take place in the sacrifice, in the knowledge tier. And I think I've explained that. I always try for, well, ever clearer explanations here. It seems, you know, that there is work being done see, what does it mean is the object of their attention? See, that's what we have to look at here. Let's see if I can find this. Yes, they are divided into 5 groups. They are the well-to-do people of the world, these lotuses of passion and desire. They have 2 petals unfolded, and the third is for them at this time the object of their attention. So let's look at this. If the third petal no, 1,000-petal lotus. I'll say, if the third PTL, and I'm going to have to make these abbreviations, sorry for the interruption, PTL, third petal. So if the third petal is the object of their attention, that attention can only be organizational because it is the second logos who adds energy for the unfoldment of petal 3. Not yet at this time the solar angel, or obviously the initiator. So attention given is work in the third petal. It's got to be organizing and maybe vitalizing work in some manner. And we wait for other sources to help unfold the petal. So where really can those, how did it happen that the Brahmic petal, the very first petal is unfolded? How did it happen that the first petal is unfolded and the others are not for some people? It looks like they should all be unfolded at once. In other words, what I'm saying, it does not seem that those people who are merely Brahmic lotuses can work that far ahead in organization. When Lotus is superior to them, are concentrating organizationally on petal 3. Maybe this is not yet the definitive statement. It's just that I think that long wait for the unfolding of the petals seems a little out of keeping. I mean, it may be correct and I may be missing something here, but the petals of the first circle are differentially unfolded. Almost one petal, the second petal on the point of opening, the second petal unfolded, work being done in the third petal. Why is work being done in the third petal? Presumably to prepare for its unfoldment. But it seems to me that a lotus of, let's just say, well, I'm going to make this again. My abbreviations really come in handy. LOPAD without an S. And that will be Lotus of Passion and Desire. Let's say, long ago, should a Lopad, Lotus of Passion and Desire, and, well, I think I have to correct that, unfortunately, LOPAD. And let's see, with Lotus of Passion and Desire. Okay, a Lopad. Yes, we'll do that, okay. So long ago, a Lotus of Passion and Desire should have turned its attention to the love tier and be assiduously working in that tier. If also the Brahmic lotuses are working in that tier, but the Lopad is not. At least its major attention is still in petal 3, so it seems. All right. Well, this is this is reasoning. Excuse me. And it seems to me that it has to be straightened out somehow. My present conclusion every time I run into this statement is that the lotuses of passion and desire, or rather the Brahmic lotuses, have had that petal unfold a long time before they've really been concentrating on organizing petal number 3, let us say. It has unfolded. Okay, well, I'm working on this. If organizational work is the main thing that a man can do, and that means building capacity in the area associated with this petal, then organizational work is very important for producing the abilities related to a particular petal. See, from the way it's said here, the lopads should be working already in minimally in petal 6, the lotuses of Brahman in petal 5, the Brahmic lotuses in petal 4, and yet the main concentration of attention for the lotus of passion and desire is petal 3. So you see the apparent inconsistency now, turning his attention to, let's see what that can mean, the object of their attention. What does it mean, object of their attention? Object of their attention, to me, can only mean organizing. If it was the object of attention of the second logos, or of a solar angel, that would be different. But a man, mostly, can only organize. Maybe through strenuous and abnormal effort, he can induce unfoldment in the sacrifice petals. So, either this is blinding, or I am confused, or something is not, being here revealed. Analogously, you see, if the lopads are making petal 3, the object of their attention, then the Brahmic lotuses should be making petal 2 the object of their attention, because they have one petal open. Then what is the object of attention for the lotuses of Brahman? Later, petal 2, perhaps, or, experiences and capacities correlated with with higher skills in petal 2, because it is on the showing signs of opening. So this has to be really hashed out, and I just bring it to your attention. Maybe to some of you it will be entirely obvious what is going on. But it didn't tell us that the lotuses of passion and desire are really cutting edge, working on petal 6, for instance. Those things are in a way beyond them. They have to develop the mind, so they have to work in petal 3. It's almost as if one has to work 1 and then maybe 2 petals ahead. And I think I'll put that down, you know. It is almost as if an individual must work 1 and maybe 2 petals ahead, but not more, because the qualities and skills being organized would be too far ahead of them, considering where they are functioning. In other words, for the well-to-do, successful, nice, somewhat intelligent man with no real inner experience of the higher of the pairs of opposites, to be working in petal 6, which is a petal associated with probationary discipleship, seems too far ahead. So I'm just, I have, this cognitive dissonance going on in me, and I have not yet been able to resolve it. I think maybe, well, you have it in front of you now, and maybe if I talk to some of my friends, they can enlighten me on this subject. It's the same as, petal 5. One is working as petal 5 is showing signs of really unfolding toward the end. You really have to be working at self-discipline in petal 6, and you also have to be expressing abnormal, strenuous and abnormal efforts in petal 7. Otherwise, petal 5 cannot open. But, yeah, I don't see us necessarily working in petal 8 and petal 9, waiting for the entire tier of love tier to open while we work ahead in all of those farther fields. So I've set up the invocation, sort of the call for the solution to this problem, at least the problem as I perceive it. Then the other quotation is simply sacrifice on the physical plane, orange, yellow, and indigo. I don't know how we have this here, but we have something about the feudal system, bondage, the will of the lord of the manor, our school system. Are they related? Sacrifices for one's family. Well, the feudal system, yes. Let's put it like this: feudal system, bondage, and we can put here serfdom. Economic land slavery, really. Sacrifices for one's family, the country, sacrifices for those to whom there is much loyalty, the higher-ups, being a soldier, being in service. In the service is ruled by Virgo, interestingly enough. Ours is not the reason why, theirs. It's really, I looked this up, didn't I? Theirs is but to do and die. Theirs is but to do and die. It doesn't look like they have a choice here. It's not do or die. We've changed it somewhat. It's a do or die situation, but for these who are riding into the valley of death, into the jaws of death, they had to do and die. Okay, in the Virgo myth, it's the only myth where an army appears, an army of Amazons. So this is not in any sexual sense. They have the power they have the vir, you might say. I guess they shun the circles of men and have preserved their power. They were semi-mythical already in Greek times, but in Asia Minor, On the island of Lesbos, the women lived alone. Were they descendants in any way of these Amazons? There are some interesting things being said here. First stages of cooperation with the will. And, let's see, the devas are hunting the men, is that so? The mind is trapped by deva quality, and devas are hunting the human will. They do not want the human will to be independent of their control. Hippolyta was directed, however, to give the belt, her particular belt of Venus to Hercules, and she was actually, as Virgos should be, willing to conform to the will. You know, in Virgo, one of the major signs for Petal 3, an early version of not my will, but thine be done, is to be understood and is practiced. So Hercules made an error in Virgo. One is meant to conform to the will instead of challenging the form in such a way that one destroys it. So the belt is the virgin power of matter, and it gives Devic life, the woman, to the human will. It reinforces it. The belt of Venus reinforces the human will. And there is a skill in action which Hercules failed to express. So it's the first recognition of the human being really needing to be separate from matter. In Virgo, let matter reign. Well, when you have to sacrifice immensely in the third petal, you are forced to separate yourself from matter. With petal 3 sacrifices, you are forced to separate yourself from matter, the matter of your own body, which you may well lose. So in Atlantean days, it is said the devas obeyed humanity, but I'm sure there were other instances when it was the other way around. Hippolyta is now recognizing her duty to give the belt, but this is not, the aspirant does not recognize this. We are simply a servant in the war. We are sacrificing to our culture and civilization. We are, this is an important one, dying for the collective. And the collective, so Virgo always must relinquish something in favor of the greater. So to die for the collective, for a greater power than your own, the state, let us say, demands everything. So, you know, in fascism, the state becomes overpowering, and it demands sacrifice from you. I'm remembering, you know, it is said when the Russians were at war, Mother Russia demands your sacrifice. It's unavoidable kind of sacrifice, because there is no way that the individual can face the overpowering collective. There is no way that the individual at this stage can face and overcome the overpowering collective. I mean, he could run away, he could desert, but then he would be brought back to this very experience once again. So, you know, it's a Virgo petal when you look at the 3 earth signs in relation to the knowledge petals, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Virgo is at once mental, and yet it is demanding of sacrifice. So it does cultivate the mind, but at the same time, maybe just enough mind to realize what one must do. There is a great must do in this petal. There is a great and unavoidable must do in petal 3. And I don't know why it turned pink on me, but now it is not. Well, okay, you know, those were some preambulatory thoughts. I ran around and around. You know, trying to solve this question of how long must one really wait for the unfoldment of the petal, and if one must, one, it seems, cannot wait so long as to be working in the next tier. You know, that would, what would it be? Would it be like waiting millions of years for the unfoldment of the first group of petals? Well, you know, something doesn't quite square there, and yet I can't quite grasp. I compare all the references, and they seem really quite contradictory at times, and I've kind of worked out an idea that they unfold one by one, but then when there is really polarization in the second tier, whatever remains to be unfolded all unfolds together. So my present hypothesis is the knowledge petals unfold one by one, but not necessarily completely. And when there is focus in organizing the love tier, and a certain amount of organization has occurred, then whatever remains to be unfolded in the knowledge tier is all at once unfolded. And this would mean, of course, that every group, particular group, could continue to do what it does without having to wait for complete organization in the next tier. If I am a lotus of a Brahmic lotus, my next work is to develop some kind of understanding of love and sensitivity and desire and form. My next work is not to integrate the personality or to develop a creative personality. And I can do that. I can get on with that. Meanwhile, everything that I have been working on for millions of years becomes second nature. You see, it's completely impossible. It is, I'm back at it again, right? It is impossible for there to be differential unfoldments of petals if they all unfold completely at once. Now, maybe the Tibetan is not actually saying that. Maybe he's saying that the unfoldment process begins, but how rapid is it, you see? All right, well, this is called obsession, and I'm just going to have to let it go until the next time. What tier are we in? Well, for petal number 3, we're in the knowledge tier. And the division of the tier is known as knowledge sacrifice. This is the knowledge sacrifice petal. Here it is, petal 3, knowledge sacrifice. Okay. The element most associated with this tier, again, is earth. And the division of the elemental triplicity most associated with this petal is Virgo. the division of the elemental triplicity. Now, it's different if I begin with Aries at the first petal, because then I have, interestingly, Gemini. Virgo is related to the constellation Coma Berenices, or Berenice's hair. The sacrifice of hair was considered a very great sacrifice by the woman, and she sacrificed her hair so that her husband would return from battle, not be killed in battle. So this is all about sacrifice and service. Those who join the service are impressed into the service. It's ruled by Virgo. And as I said, it's the beginning of not my will, but thine be done, which is later consummated with the world's Savior, perhaps at the synthesis petal ruled by Pisces, which is just before the fourth initiation. And we're told that, Jesus in the garden, well, it was really the Lord Maitreya, but it was announced, not my will, but thine be done. And it really had to do with the sixth initiation, DK tells us, but on the level of Master Jesus, it also had to do with the offering up of his life on the cross as a great symbolic act. So the sacrifice of the hair, the husband returns, and that was a conscious sacrifice. Hair is vitality, hair is power, and it's giving that power to the higher will. The belt was also a sign of power, maybe Davic power, let us say. There's no reason for Hercules to become the enemy of the Devas. To become the enemy of the Devas. It's so easy for the aspirant to want to beat his vehicle into submission and thereby lose a lot of power in the process. The shaving of the hair is always a sign of abnegation, and Delilah cut Samson's hair, and he lost his power. The nuns also cut their hair, the Buddhist nuns too, and it used to be the case here. They relinquish all attractiveness, apparently, to worldly possible attractions, to men, let us say, and they become instead the bride of Christ. And it's in their soul that they are united. So they become hermit-like, and they cut off. Hair is also attraction. It's so interesting that in some of the religions you're not allowed to show your hair. And the nuns in Western societies, they didn't. The old style, they did not show their hair because it is considered related to personal attraction. There was some degree of vanity in the second petal, perhaps. Venus involved there. But Venus in Virgo, see, Venus involved with Leo or with one of the more sensual signs like Taurus, maybe, the personal attraction is not subdued. But Venus in Virgo, it's the sacrifice of that which makes one vain or makes one think of oneself as important or centralized. It's kind of a pre-Virgo act. More of that happens again at the sixth petal, which is ruled by Virgo when you start counting from Aries and find it to be the sixth petal. And also it's interesting, when they used to burn the witches, they shaved their hair so no one would have any personal attraction towards them and want to stop and intervene on their behalf. It's an act of shaming. It happens also, it happened with collaborators in the Second World War, and when the Germans were forced out later, the various resistance groups came after the collaborators if they were women or fraternizers, and they shaved their hair if they didn't kill them. So it's about guilt and shame too. And are you serving your community? So there's a public and personal shame in this petal if you do not comply with the community need and make your sacrifice. You are forced into it by so many pressures. Forces are at work in the collective, forcing the loss of the physical body without really knowing why in the long run it has to be, and probably not realizing that reincarnation is a fact and that all of these are lessons. Interesting, too, that hair is a representation of the vegetable kingdom in the way it grows, and thus related to Virgo also. So it's so interesting. You'd have sometimes seen these Virgo people that have this incredible hair that just almost stands out. If they have strong Uranus or maybe Aries, it stands out even more. But of the Virgo person, the hair can just come out. Just take a look and see whether you find that to be the case in some of them. So there is this this whole thing about whether you go with this luxuriant growth or whether you discipline it and in some way isolate yourself and sacrifice yourself. You cut yourself off from the natural attractiveness of the hair. Of course, then when you shave your hair, it also is a symbol of gaining a certain very masculine power. And there's a lot of people walking around, I'll tell you, in Europe today, I don't know about the U.S., with the hair completely shaved, and it's kind of a sex symbol of the will. They do this, and it's beginning to look natural. At first I thought it was very ugly, but now I think it's very ugly. Okay, all right. I won't get into that one. So which of the three fires are most associated with this petal? Well, obviously still fire by friction. And secondarily, electric fire. Interesting, the electric kind of direction the hair takes, though only attenuated electric fire. We are still unconscious of the higher of the pairs of opposites when dealing with this petal of ignorance. And even the nice, good person that has two petals open and is working in the third petal, making it the object of their attention, they're not going around saying, I am God, are they, in any philosophical sense. So there is really the fire of lower mind, and the sacral center as the home of the mental elemental is involved here. And Virgo, we know, can be very related to lower mind. It is related to the second part of life within the previous solar system, and that was more related to intelligence and the concrete mind. What is the planar focus most associated with this petal? Well, it's still, first of all, it's the physical plane, but then it's the lower mental plane. It's not the abstract plane. The higher self is found at least on subplane 2 and 3 of the mental plane, and then still higher. And these people are still in the hall of ignorance, working within this petal. And maybe when it's completely unfolded, they are doing, and so are all the other petals of the knowledge tier. Then maybe they're doing some work in relation to the higher self in the second tier, and maybe they are beginning to get some little sense of the group. Of course, the group is a factor in the ignorance petals, but it's not like belonging in your higher nature to a group and sensing the higher nature of the group. Things are still very physicalized. So the physical plane, because it's the knowledge petals for the physical plane, and then the mental plane as it applies to physical things, to concrete things, concrete mind for concrete things. People don't realize when they say we're using your concrete mind, you have to be dealing with concretions in order to use your concrete mind. If you're dealing with some higher mathematical formula, and you're specific about it, and you're using the symbols which each of them contain a whole universe of relations, you're not using your concrete mind as specific as you may be. I have some arguments with my friends about that. Exactitude of thought can be achieved by a philosopher, and it's not concrete mind simply because it's exact and exacting. If it's related to concrete objects, it's concrete mind. Or to, the objects of the senses, the various senses, in the dense physical vehicle of the solar logos. So mind is definitely coming in more strongly here. And there's less and less karma manas per se. It still endures. I suppose as long as we are still personality-centered, karma manas will be a problem, and also especially for certain rays. If you have a very, very strong third and fifth ray and not too much of the soft line rays, then it's not as likely that karma will be blended with manas, and it's easier then to take the second initiation. because of the control of the astral body through these mental rays. And it's easier to divorce the thinking process from the feeling tones, in Jung's words, which sometimes accompany that. There is pure, cool thought, divorced from like, not like, from emotions, from attraction, repulsion, just the facts. And that is given to certain rays to express. So the mind is coming in strongly, mind and sacrifice, both entering more strongly. We don't really have a category of people who are not the primary lotuses and who are not the lotuses of passion and desire. We need some group that is strongly integrated, mentally focused, and still able to respond emotionally. We don't really have a name for such a group. As I say, the lotuses of the second circle are not really named. Maybe they're too close to us, I don't know. I'm sure they have names. At least it seems to me they would. Permanent atom or unit or antichironic phase most associated with this petal? Well, the physical permanent atom still. The astral permanent atom, because work has been done for millions of years in the second petal, and the mental unit, because work is now being done in the lower concrete mind. All three of them are coming to a focus. But remember that they don't really come into this noticeable blaze until the tier associated with them is open. So it's the physical permanent atom, the complete opening of the first tier, astral permanent atom, complete opening of the second tier, which is virtually, I think, the second initiation, and the mental unit, the complete opening of the sacrifice petals for the mental plane. So it's the physical permanent atom primarily. It's strongly developed, already a twofold increase in force, but also the mental unit, because there is not as fully as it will be developed, nor the astral permanent atom as fully as it will be developed, but the mental unit too now, because there is also much desire and aspiration in this sacrifice of the body upon the altar. The astral permanent atom is also related and present. The astral permanent atom must be involved in this sacrifice through desire of the body. Or let's just say, how does it put on the altar of desire? Okay, let's see, I think, let me go over to page 822 of A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. And here we will see the three petals are organized and vitalized in the Hall of Ignorance, but remain unopened. Now here, the outer tier simultaneously unfolds until it is entirely open, revealing the second circle in whatever shape they're in. This is not the one I want. Rather, I want 540. And here, after the petal of sacrifice to the physical plane, the physical permanent atom becomes radioactive or a point of fire. The lower three petals become vibrant and begin to unfold until fully developed. Okay. How long that takes, the whole process, the briefer process of unfoldment, compared to the process of organization. That would be nice. That would be nice to know. Later, when the astral permanent atom comes into full activity and radiance, when there is complete unfoldment of the love tier, as regards 5 of its spirillae, the astral permanent atom, and the soul can be affected by the soul, presumably by the spiritual kingdom, the number 5. And the 2 atoms of physical and astral planes are equally vibrant. The 3 petals of the central ring of the egoic lotus also come into full unfoldment, and the heart center of the monad is seen as a wheel of fire. Well, to me, this means there's work being done in the 8th petal, and the 6th, the second initiation, has occurred. Okay. Now we go on, and here is a statement about Virgo from an important page in Esoteric astrology. It says, Virgo. In Virgo, a man who was fluid in Pisces, and I assume how Pisces applies to the second petal processes, and emotionally selfish and full of desire in Sagittarius, its relationship to the second petal, I suppose, begins to focus still more intently into reason and to think. That's really going on in the work of the third petal. Begins to focus still more intently and to reason and to think. The primary lotuses are in the process of having this third petal and even the first unfolded. The latent soul is becoming interiorly alive. A germination process is proceeding. The hidden man is making his presence felt. The intellect is awakening. And instinct, after passing through the emotional stage, in other words, petal 1 after passing through petal 2, is being transmuted into intellect. Petal 1, instinct; petal 2, emotion; petal 3, intellect. So Virgo, it seems, is strongly related to the mental unit. There's so many little details to have to work out, and of course, like I say, this is the giant jigsaw puzzle, and it's always, you have to kind of hold this in your mind, but we're going to make a picture of this gradually, and I think many things that I say here, and of course taking it from the Tibetan quite directly, are going to be the basis of some kind of visual display, which can really reveal how these things are. Of course, nothing will be confirmed unless the artists involved actually see this for themselves. But on the basis of what has been said, they can give, I would say, an approximation of how the process actually will go. Okay. I suppose, coming back to my favorite obsession of the moment, once you have organized something, organized your work in an area associated with a petal, how much can you depend upon that organizational work to provide you with the skills you need when you need them? I would say that later, when there is unfoldment, there is much more reliability. So if you think about, what a man can learn in petal number 1, let's say he's been working in petal number 1, organizing. Then he goes on to petal number 2, organizing. Then he goes on to petal number 3, organizing. It's as if the way DK seems to have it, I just have to say seems, the way DK seems to tell the story, the Lemurian petal only unfolds when the man has been working in the mind and beyond, and maybe even far beyond. So does that mean that all the skills one would have in relation to the Lemurian petal only are fortified once he is working in petal, where are we? Once he is working in petal 4 or 5? It seems difficult to think of this. When you look at people now, let's say there are Brahmic lotuses now. What are they like? They have one petal unfolded. But what are they like? And can we not say that they are very physical and not very sensitive or mental? And yet, if what DK seems to be saying is true, they have already done much work in the mental petal and have moved on to petal 4. Because the petal 1 would not unfold until they were at least working in petal 4. But when you work ahead in these petals, you are actually building in the faculties related to these petals. And do BRL, okay, Brahmic lotuses actually have those faculties which they are supposedly organizing? I think they do not. They do not have them. They do not have, if they have worked in petal 4, they will have organized the possibility of integrating the personality. Do they show this? No. If they have worked in petal 3, they will have a good mind. But do they show this? No. They are still in human group number 2. They are still in human group 2 and, 2 HG2, and are still very physical. So, if working ahead gives you faculties which you prepared yourself, why do these faculties not show in the Brahmic lotuses and lotuses of Brahman? In other words, love tier faculties do not show in these people. Only what shows is the qualities related to the petal which has unfolded, or maybe some qualities related to the next petal. I think I'm getting closer. Do you think so? Is my obsession paying off here? What is obsession in this case? It's sort of a dogged determination to see a difficult problem through until at least you can understand why you are not understanding. And as I say, I can understand some of the things DK says about these things and not others. And I cannot just acquiesce and say, oh, that's right and that's right, when they appear to contradict each other. So I have to resolve the cognitive dissonance that I seem to feel. Maybe there is no cognitive dissonance, but I have to resolve the cognitive dissonance which I seem to detect. And I'm doing so as best I can. In other words, I'm going to go on. Any of the egoic lotuses of the first tier should be working in tier 2. Well, maybe I'll put a capitals. And working means access to quality, which they have inbuilt. But do they show it? Do they show it? No. They only show what relates to the petals which have unfolded for them, or maybe some of the next petal. And that's the main problem. If the Brahmic lotuses, if the Brahmic lotuses are already working in the second tier, because otherwise their petal could not have unfolded, then they should show something from the second tier, but they don't. They show a very primitive state of development. Well, okay, it is the great jigsaw puzzle, and we're going to continue to put this together piece by piece, until we get blazing clarity on the subject, and, all of us are totally clairvoyant in the accurate sense and can study the many, many samples and will be experts in this field of the egoic lotus. In fact, we'll be solar angels, and that's why we'll be experts, and we'll just have to spend a few more trillion years and go off to Sirius for training. Time doesn't exist, and yet time is a very real illusion. All right, so why did I pause there? We were talking something about Virgo and its relationship. The mutable cross is beautifully described there on page 119 and 120 of Esoteric Astrology, and around the fixed cross on page 143 approximately. I'm not sure, I don't know about the cardinal cross, but sometimes we want to look up what is being said there. What is said here? Do we mean that we are learning the nature of the soul, or that it has some influence on what's going on? We know one thing. Soul is related to astral body, generically. Yes. So, if the soul is related to the astral body, and the astral petal is mainly the second petal, then some soul quality has to come through. Think about that second petal being open, and how some creativity emanating from the soul can come through into a creative process. So there is a link there between the soul and the second petal. Are we learning relationship in the second tier because soul is the principle of relationship? Maybe so. Those who learn only about the outer world are still in ignorance. Maybe the soft line petals give entree into the more subjective and true worlds. You know how it goes. Personality is related to the physical body, soul to the astral body, the monad to the mental body, in terms of ray effects. So learning about relationships of personalities to each other, and learning about the presence of the soul. In other words, something from the soul comes through. From the soul comes through due to resonance. All right, the resonance of the soul with the astral body, generically considered. There's this tour in Tibet going on, and it's just ending, and I'm kind of expecting a call about the end of it. Going off to the attempt to go to Mount Kailash, Chinese blocked it. Attempt to go to Oracle Lake, Chinese blocked it. Third time something came through, and they got to see many beautiful monasteries. But you're playing a game of risk if you plan a trip to Tibet, because the Chinese authorities are capricious and absolute. At least that is the way it seems to be in the year 2014. Now, if this is listened to 10 years later, maybe everything will have changed. What worlds are we dealing with this third petal? The world of senses, emotions, mind, meaning, significance, being, and causes and purpose. It's the world of mind, lower mind. It's the world of the mind, from light of the soul, but it's mind functioning in the world of the senses, so, it is lower mind, not son of mind or higher mind. Higher mind. Heavenly man? No, okay. HGM, higher mind? Oh, well, just higher mind. Okay. It's the mind functioning through the world of the senses, and particularly the physical senses. I don't think we're at the point where we are examining the astral world with the mind like Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater did. So we're dealing with the playground of the mind, and you can play in the mind and still be on the green playing field, the playground of God. Virgo is associated with the green because of the vegetable kingdom, and Taurus with the green because of all of nature and the prana, which sustains the growth of the vegetable kingdom. Taurus is a very pranic sign, so Taurus, prana, green, vitality, plant kingdom, Venus, those are associated ideas. But the mind is still outward turned because we are still in the hall of ignorance. And because this is still lower mind, we have the sacral center still involved. Therefore, the sacral center as the repository of the lower mind, or the what's called the mental elemental, is still involved. The mind is engaged with things here. It may be very complex things to deal with, and all kinds of inventions may be happening, and interesting innovations and so forth, such as the primary lotuses might give us, but still it's the world of things. Orange is there. Orange may be beginning in the beginning, but what about orange in the concrete mind? What about orange in the concrete mind? So the radiance of orange, I would say, is intensifying. Just imagine how we'll look at these colors, not just the color, but the degree of radiance of the color, its intensity. This will constantly increase, and I suppose, the third initiation is ruled by the fifth ray. Orange, it's going to be at its brightest in the ninth petal, it seems to me. What is the Deva group most associated with this petal? Well, the Devas of the lower mental plane. The Devas of the lower mental plane, the mental elemental Devas, the evolutionary Devas of the mental level are entering, but it's not yet the Agnishvatas as usually considered, unless we are speaking of a lower form of them. I've never been able to quite work that out, whether the mental elementals and Devas, especially the Devas of the lower mental plane, should be called Agnishvatas. So should the Devas of the lower mental plane be called Agnishvatas? The A-G and S. Yes, oh, there's a plural. Oh, I'm so happy to see a plural. Should they be called Agnishvatas? And sometimes it seems that they should. And of course, but still Agnishvatas seem to be solar angels and not mental elementals or lower mental devas. See, the lower mental devas are not yet individualized, but the Agnisvatas are. And that is the difference, and that's what makes me have a reservation about using the term Agnishvatas for the Devas of the lower mind. And certainly the elementals of the lower mind are nowhere near it. But maybe lower Agnishvatas, maybe DK can clarify that. Anyway, mental elemental lives of the lower mental plane, and Devic lives, unconscious Devic lives of the lower mental plane. What is the astrological cross most associated with this third petal? It's the mutable cross still. Mutable cross, mutable submutable. In other words, it's knowledge sub Gemini or knowledge sub Virgo. So it's interesting that with some of these petals of sacrifice, mutability is associated astrologically. We have gone through this question about Sagittarius and Aries in the ninth petal, and probably will repeat it. Maybe there's nothing too bad about repeating these things because there's a lot of data here, and it's something we have to learn to take in, perhaps through repetition. What stage of the path is most associated here? We're still on the path of evolution. Until there is a real sense of personality integration, I don't see how we can have ambition. Let's say that personality integration is needed for what I call the, quote, path of ambition, which is the accentuation of the lower egoic self, the little personal self as an apparently separated unit, and the accentuation of it and the aggrandizement of it. Could this path of ambition be entering? No, I don't think so. You have to have more than a mind to be on the path of ambition. There has to be the sense of one's center, which has to be accentuated. The sense of a real center has to be accentuated and even aggrandized on the path of ambition. And if we're simply dealing with the third petal and not with any sense of real personality integration yet, we don't have that illusory sense of a permanent self, which needs to be elevated. Of course, it has been growing ever since individualization, the sense that I am something. But that it should be raised up and come to power and all of that, it seems more to do with the fourth and fifth petal, especially the fifth petal, and especially the early part of the experiences associated with the fifth petal. So when you have mental focus, then ambition begins to be possible, because personality and ambition go together, and personality and mental focus go together. Personality and mental focus go together. Excuse me. At the mental unit, it's found on the fourth subplane of the mental plane, and personality 2 corresponds to number 4, and activities around that mental unit are creating an integrated personality. But first the mind, and then the personality building upon that, or sort of coalesced around that. Ambition is self-promotion. That's another way of looking at it. In this petal, there is aspiration for which you sacrifice the physical body, but there is not yet ambition by means of which you promote your own lower ego. You are giving up to something greater than yourself, to something irresistible and greater than yourself, like Mother Russia or the fatherland, all of those things. And you die for that. Ambition can, however, be useful in order to rise and to show your powers, and later show them in service, not so they will be seen, but so that they can be usefully demonstrated. Are civil servants ambitious in the same way as those who wish to rise to the top through their individuality? I guess it was suggested, that this is a good petal for civil servants working in for the government and not working for any sense of demonstrating their prowess, just doing their job, So often in petal 3, you do your job, and that is Virgo. Here too, you said that the lunar substance in that, there is still the drive to excel, especially when we get a hold of the, when ahamkara grabs a hold of it. When ahamkara grabs hold of the lunar substance, then there is the seeking of self-promotion, a very Leo kind of thing, because in a way, there is no real fifth elemental, but there is the completely unified and empowered personality filled with ahamkara that Leo rules. So you get the four elementals coming together for the integrated personality, then it becomes empowered by a growing sense of ahamkara. The driving force of circumstance, well, it makes you think danger concentrates the mind wonderfully, and that is that's actually quite interesting, because in sacrificial circumstances the mind really grows. In sacrificial circumstances the mind really improves. So let's bring in the Hydra heads as we consider the 9 petals. Yes, indeed. And, well, sex, money, and comfort. I wonder, do they all land in the Taurus petal? Well, we're told even in stage of adaptation number 3 that the man is disciplining himself for the sake of comfort. I guess in these earth signs those 3 can be found. Certainly sex is found very strong in the first petal. In the second petal, along with comfort, and we might say that, well, money is there for Taurus too. Whatever is of value is emerging, and I suppose much of this is relinquished in the third petal through the sacrifice. We might say there is the mind, though, to understand money. I would say the third petal is not so much a sex petal, it's not so much a comfort petal, but it could relate to finances. It could do that. Well, we can look at the 9 heads of the Hydra and the 9 petals. Basically, you're mostly fighting them when you're working in petal number 8. And, in the sacrifice tier, that's when you're fighting the 9 heads of the Hydra. And you're working in the sacrifice tier even before the 5th petal opens and gives you the first initiation. I think there are some things you have to have overcome before you can take the first initiation. Certain Hydra heads need to be overcome. Hydra heads need to be overcome before you can take the first initiation, and then the second initiation, and then the third initiation. There's these groups: sex, money, comfort, first initiation; fear, hatred, and ambition, second initiation; pride, separativeness, and cruelty, third initiation. Let no one who has not overcome these things talk about being an initiate of the third degree. It's just ludicrous. Okay, so if the solar plexus center sometimes represents ambition, then is there ambition here in petal 3? Well, there's more than the solar plexus center in representing ambition. And Mars, the solar plexus, is active throughout that tier. When there is mind, is there competition and ambition? Not necessarily, but when there is a center of personality, there can be. Are we self-directing even though we can think? Is there, in other words, is there a noticeable self in addition to the mind? 2 things. And one is the personality. So mind is not personality, even though personality is largely built on mind, or at least at the 4th subplane. The 5th subplane of the mental plane can be involved, maybe, but not the 4th. In other words, 4th gives you personality. Gives you personality. The 5th subplane of the mental plane gives you analytical manas, analytical lower mind, but not enough to integrate the personality. So our primary lotuses, maybe the question was asked, man-like machines. Well, they do come from another planet, and they don't have that emotional responsiveness which seems to humanize people, but they are working on its development. So, we all know those very cool and mental people that don't seem to have that emotional give and take. Excuse me. Too much talking today. Maybe have some tea, which will dry me out further. Perfect. Okay, interesting. It's just interesting, all the different kinds of things that can go on at the different subplanes. The sixth subplane of the mental plane being very much kama-manasic. The seventh subplane, being mentally ritualistic, thinking of the right thing to do and doing it. The fifth subplane will have a lot to do with the use of the mind in a non-kama-manasic manner. By the time we get to the fourth subplane, we have the possibility of blending the 5 and the 4, and personality can focus itself excuse me, upon the mind, or based upon the mind. What stage of discipleship do we find here? Working with third petal processes? None. Right. Stage of discipleship? None. Initiatory stage? None. Except, excuse me, when all the 3 petals are fully open and interactive between themselves in a new way, it may mean that the first degree can be taken, but it will also necessarily mean, if they're interactive in a new way, it will mean that the 5th petal is fully unfolded. What page is that? Well, I think I should know that immediately, but okay, I'm just going to let that go. I'll do my best to let that go. Okay, so let's see, the stage of discipleship, no. Initiatory stage, if any, none. Maybe when the first tier springs apart and relates to itself in a new way and is distinct, we have one of those initiations which is characteristic of the Mahachohan series and brings the man into closer touch with the group. So is the first degree taken? I'll have to check on that. If it is, it means the other 2 petals are unfolded as well when the first group completely springs apart. That still has to be researched. The color of the 5 human stages, well, it's more green. It's not red because some stronger mentality has subdued the passions. We are developing the mind, and the mind will allow us to play upon the playground of life, the green playing field, the playground of the mind, which is fitting with the number 3 of the 3rd petal. The playground of the Lord, the mind becomes stronger and the games begin in earnest. Does blue-green fit with Virgo? Well, in a way it does. The blue-green is interesting because in our present solar system, Virgo has a ray 2 and 6 effect. In the previous solar system, it had more a ray 3 effect, maybe some ray 7 in the beginning. Anyway, the blue-green will be the result of blending the green with the blue, obviously. Is it too early for the orange ball of ambition to be seized? Well, orange is a mental color. I said mental number, but really I should say color, should I not? And you are forced to sacrifice for something greater, but it's not really yet ambition for yourself. And ambition is very much based upon the isolation of the lower ego as a thing in itself and a thing of importance and reality. Only ambition in the sense that the concrete mind is being developed, but it is not orange in the sense of ambition. So only orange in that sense. but not the orange ball of ambition or of one pointed purpose which seems to need the centralizing effect of the point that we call the lower ego, and which seems more related to Leo. So it's a kind of revealing point in Leo. It's not so much well, it could be in a way the hidden point. The hidden point can be considered the spirit, so in a way the true inner spirit is hidden in these early days of personality ambition. From petal 3 to petal 5, we get increasingly orange. But maybe we do not, in terms of the stages, the color stages of human development, but you do not carry the orange into petal 6, because that's where you are correcting yourself and going into that long, dark tunnel of self-correction. In this group, petal 3 group, it is thought that ambition then is not yet very much present. But there is always, of course, betterment. What is ambition? Well, the stronger the ego in the lower sense, the greater the ambition. It strives to make the thing you think you are, the identity you think you are, come out on top in comparison with other identities. Question is, how much of the ego is there in petal 3 per se? Well, unless a great deal is going on in petal 5 at the same time, I don't think we can have the really dominant personality until we get to the first part, the first type of experiences related to petal 5. So maybe there's not so much of the lower ego in petal 3 per se. We have to integrate the 3 sheaths into a unity in order to create what is going to be here discussed. Integrate the 3 sheaths into a unity which for 3 and sometimes 7 lives, occasionally 11 lives, will function as a dominant personality in some field of wide expression using the energy of ambition. The directed power aiming at exalting that which the self conceives itself to be. So whatever we think we are, it has to, by comparison, come out in advance of what we think other people are. This is the ambition. It's always for place, power, altitude, so forth. So the mind is there, yes, in petal 3, but it's not so lower ego driven. I think, lower ego driven. The driving motivation to achieve a vision goal, a drivenness which will, these are things that ambition is, a driving motivation to achieve a vision goal, but in this vision goal, the place, and position, and position of the lower self as self-conceived is held in mind. It's not just to achieve a goal. Master Hilarion tells us to be not ambitious, but to work as one who is ambitious. And that means we work with the same kind of drive, but the image of the little self in some more favorable position is not held. We have to forget that little self. We have to take our eyes off the little self. I would say a lot of what goes on in petal 6 is helping to take the eyes off the lower self. And even at the end of the petal 5 process, one becomes an aspirant, but still probably one is not, one still thinks quite a bit about how one is doing on the spiritual path. So ambition is like a drivenness which will destroy all in the way, in order to attain. So stepping on others to go further and higher. And, you know, we have so much of that in the world today, a lot of egos seeking to ascend. Is there a distinction between ambition and selfish ambition? I think so. Relationship of the ego is always found in ambition, and it's always some degree selfish, but there are degrees of selfishness. So we have to get a very clear ego concept. Can there be ambition before there is there an ego concept before there is ambition? Well, the two kind of go hand in hand. The idea would be, of course, to immediately offer one's service, bring what one thinks one is into the service of some higher objective, regardless of what will happen to that which we conceive ourselves to be. See, the self-image is important in ambition. That which we conceive, whatever it is, ourselves to be, must be elevated when ambition rules. And really, ambition is limited vision. Limited vision of the true self. So, the mind creates a self-image, yes. A goal created out of one's own thought and ego, and it has not to do with real need. It has to do with self-exaltation, the achieving of something for the sake of self-exaltation. And you know, but I'm saying that the third petal per se is not really an excessively ambitious petal, but increasingly it grows towards the fifth. It's achievement for the separative self, and spiritual ambition is much the same. We may, with spiritual ambition, have a higher self-concept, but we are interested in seeing that which we think ourselves to be exalted. So we are not taking our eyes off the separative self or separate self. So when you are ambitious, the end justifies the means. It's getting there that counts, and we see ourselves as number one. And I am number one. I count the most. The ambitious person sees the self, his self, as the most important, and I'm calling it content of consciousness. All we have is contents of consciousness. And somehow this lower ego self takes up a great deal of space within the contents of consciousness. It has not shrunk down to become a point which then can become the relinquished point. So we are into the business of advancing ego image, and we're not into things for the pure love of them. We're into them for what they can do to us, for us. We are into things for what they can do for us, for that which we think ourselves to be. Is it possible to be a mind without being a personality? Yes, I think we've answered that. So all of this is about ambition. The first three petals then are related pretty much to the first solar system and that which could be created in the first solar system, and by reflection on the moon chain. A Virgo can, under the sixth ray, which it expresses, have an ambition to be devoted to a cause. So there's all kinds of ways, though. If we will not drop the self-image as most important in our field of consciousness, then we cannot overcome ambition. Saturn is a planet of ambition. The one planet which denotes ambition really strongly, strongly aspected to the sun, Saturn aspecting the sun. The sun is sometimes considered the center of being. So there is enforced sacrifice here. Ambition is arising out of imposed limitations, arising out of making sacrifices for the achievement of certain goals, but still quite selfish. The ambition pointed out here is not as one who works like one who is ambitious, but is not. No, this person still is ambitious and works like one who is ambitious. So the position of Saturn can tell a great deal about ambition. It was interesting that in Hitler's personality chart, looking at him as some human embodiment of the counterforce, Saturn was in Leo, the sign of personality, in the 10th house of the chart. I think he really had a problem with his self-image, and he came into a kind of megalomania in relation to that Saturn and Leo. He also had Leo in his soul horoscope, so DK has not said how, but it's certainly possible because he was a Taurus, and so his conception chart may well have had the Leo sun. Well, let's see here. Yes, there can be improvement without ambition. Virgo is interested in being more perfect than I used to be. Well, okay, certain things are added. They are not necessarily climactic. They're simply added as we discussed. What is the racial stage most associated, the root race stage, most associated with this petal? Well, it's almost Aryan. It's not Lemurian. It's not Lantean. And 2.5 petals, we might say, or, enough work in that third petal so it's really working, could be considered Camo-Monastic. So it's not Atlantean, and, well, it's almost Aryan. It's lower Aryan in a way. The more you become, the more you acquire mentality, the more you move into the Aryan root race. These root races are not so much a question of form, they are a question of consciousness. So I would call it lower Aryan. And with 3 petals unfolded, there is the Aryan mentality, but the highest Aryan mentality is really, in a way, the master. Of course, he has he has moved into, he's already accomplished what we have yet to accomplish in the 6th root race and the 7th, but his number is 5, and he's a very fully unfolded 5-pointed star, and so the master really is a high example of what is meant occultly by Aryan. Certainly not the way Hitler spoke of it, which was purely materialistic, and speaking of, flesh and blood. We're talking about consciousness here. So, we call a person a 3-petaler. I mean, it's peculiar, I know. Peculiar thought here, petaler. A 3-petaler is someone who is into the Aryan type of development, but of a low kind. At least he's not controlled by Camo-Monastic, and he's not controlled by the Atlantean emotional mentality. So these 3 petalers, maybe, did they come from Vulcan? Or was it Mercury? And what about the moon chain? Now, how should we spell this? Petaler? It's kind of peculiar. The 3rd petalers were introduced from Vulcan, and I think from the moon chain. They had a kind of intelligence which made it easy for them to unfold. Or maybe they had those unfolded, the 1st and 3rd petals. Probably not so much of the 2nd petal. The moon chain was a very 3rd ray aspect of our planetary logos at a time when our planetary logos was demonstrating the 3rd ray personality more than any 2nd ray soul. Now, at this time, in this 4th chain and 4th globe, the 2nd ray soul can really begin to emerge. So the moon rules Virgo and veils Vulcan. in relation to this particular petal. Mercury is important in the petal, of course. And Vulcan has a lot to do with how you apply your mind to matter, your concrete mind. So Vulcan has much to do with how you apply your concrete mind to matter. The moon chain, I think, did it underemphasize astral development, or if not, it messed it up. And the moon, in a way, on a certain planetary systemic level, became the divine lunatic, and those who were born of the moon carry that chaos, which is lunacy. Those born of the moon carry the chaos, which is lunacy. Well, we're dealing then with Aryan consciousness in the initial stages. I'm sorry. Anyway, with this third petal, we have the possibility of disengaging from Kama Manas. There are maybe three phases of the Aryan race: mind, personality, and soul influencing the personality and mind. So the first is mind, the second is personality, which requires mind, and then the soul influencing the personality and the mind. Abstract mind is interesting. It is developed in the sixth subrace of the fifth root race, so technically is still Aryan in a sense. Anything related to the fifth root race is considered Aryan. I've spelled this petaler in all these different ways. Okay, I'll just have to live with it. This three-petaler is concrete-minded. The sacral center is important as the seat of the mental elemental. Virgo is a sign which can work with intelligence and matter, and that's what we expect of these people. You know, we're told that when the scientific type really acquires more of the love of the second petal, they will make a tremendous contribution to the welfare of all human beings, and not simply contribute to better ways for us to kill each other through the production of weaponry and so forth. I think that Germany has a fifth-ray mind, and a lot of these people supported Hitler and Bismarck before him, the whole idea of blood and iron. I think so Mars, isn't it incredible? It's almost like a Martian kind of rebellion within our present solar system. As a matter of fact, I think that's really what's happening. There was a point not long ago when Mars came, perigee, was it, as close to the Earth as it would be for 70,000 years? And that's the continuation of what I call this Martian rebellion, which is now carried on in militant religious groups. You know, it's like one more sixth-ray chance to really mess everything up. Anyway, the mineral kingdom was involved. Iron is Mars, blood is Mars, mineral kingdom is Vulcan. So these people with the fifth ray of Germany, they represented the mineral kingdom in many ways, and using the mineral kingdom to destroy humanity. You know, DK said the mineral kingdom has exacted a tremendous toll on humanity, a cause of death during this past war. And now we have this in the field of religion. I don't think we've seen anything yet. You know, I think it's the last ditch stand of the militant Martian sixth ray. So lots of these three petalers are not especially astrally polarized. They're moving from astral polarization. They're not into mental polarization, because that's really an eighth petal matter between the second and third initiation. The lotuses of passion and desire are giving attention to the third petal, but they have not fully opened it. See, we don't know. It's a little vague, giving attention. What does it mean? You know, all you can do when you give attention to it, you're not just looking at it, you're working in that field. And as you give attention, you are organizing and vitalizing. So the more it is open, the less the astral polarization, and the more one is concentrated in the mind. So the third petal people, of which no specific group has really been given in terms of a name of a lotus, are really pretty much concrete thinkers, and the mind is applied to matter. Okay, with regard to lotuses of passion and desire, yes, not fully open. the more open the third petal is, the less astral polarization there is. And I think lotuses of passion and desire have a lot of kama manas. So what would be, the name? I mean, can we call it the Aryan lotus? Not really, because the term Aryan is too broad to limit it to concrete mindedness. We're quite close to this now, and the Aryan approach is coordinating three minds: the concrete and the son of mind, and then the abstract mind. All of these capacities of mind belong to the Aryan root race particularly, and then we begin to enter a root race where the intuition will really be developed. What about the names of the egoic lotus at the stage of unfoldment? Well, primary lotuses, and then if we were to give kind of a suggested name, Lotuses of Manas. I'm kind of looking to fill in the gaps here, and DK has said that there's all kinds of different stages and overlapping, and he's got to keep it simple. Just imagine what he can see and how he can advise, and he really knows what's needed. When he looks at somebody, he knows what's needed. Only one thing here. The only thing we are given, though, in relation to this petal, is primary lotuses, and they have the first and the third petal in process of unfolding. Why primary? Well, in terms of managing the physical plane, material things, they are primary, and they're dealing with the first stages of the egoic lotus. The first stages of egoic lotus development concerns the knowledge petals or knowledge tier. This represents sort of the primary grades. We talk about going to primary school. That's what we used to call it anyway. It represents the foundation. It doesn't mean that it's most important, just that it has to come first before other things, other types of education are possible. So compare then primary to secondary to tertiary levels of schooling. Primary school, the first three petals; high school, the second three petals; and university, the sacrifice petals. And maybe I'll go a little further, in this analogy. Postgraduate work are the petals of synthesis, and let's just say becoming the professor is maybe an instructor is mastership and a professor is the master. Whereas at the fourth degree, we have the instructor in the university. University? Okay. University. Okay, so Lotuses of Manas. This is kind of what I would like to call these lotuses, which really emphasize the third petal in some equal kind of unfoldment with the second. Could they come from the moon chain? Well, if they did, they're not necessarily deficient in the second petal. I think they have a lot more of that kind of development than coming from something so close to the mineral kingdom like Vulcan. They would have, and I just want to say, more emotional intelligence, but it could have been messed up, of course. But it could have, but they could have had the astral body distorted through the unfortunate events on the moon chain. From the moon chain, there may have been much third petal with a real mess up of the second petal, making them emotional lunatics who had to be sort of straightened out. We know there are people who respond to the lunar cycles in this way. Could we call them lotuses of lower mind? Let's just see. Wait a second. Get that red-orange thing going here. Maybe it's more red. I don't know. Could we call them lotuses of lower mind? Well, concrete lotuses, lotuses of concrete intellect. One of our members thought of solar plexus mind, but I don't know, because the solar plexus introduces but kama-manasic. So this introduces the kama-manasic factor, which we are growing out of in the third petal. Third petal. So there is the power to reason and think concretely in matter. Engineers, these people are important. They are not intellectuals. To be an intellectual, you have to use the abstract mind. One thinks particularly of petal 7 there. The use of the abstract mind, ray 3 in the abstract mind is required for being intellectual. But these can be innovative people within their field of specialization, very much so, and inventive within the field of matter. Fire of mind, field of matter? Field of matter. So to have intellect is not necessarily to be a personality, however. We've looked at that in the sense of self-motivation and distinctiveness. Intellect, personality can stay out of it, and one just uses the mind, which in some ways is a desirable thing, to use the three minds united without personality interference. So in this particular case, in this petal, distinctiveness is not desirable. It's just the use of the mind. So do your job and forget who you are. I think that's a good way of putting it. So how in charge are the technical people? Well, today, very much in charge. But, when the personality comes into it, they're more in charge. But there are also those who have developed the second petal and have the third developed, and no name is given to them. What can we call them? We've been looking for it. Lotuses of Manas is one way. Or balanced lotuses of the first circle. Something like that. So we have the Virgoan analytical mind, and the mind is the basis for being human, really. Otherwise, we're pretty much expressive animals, If we can't use the mind, we cannot call ourselves really human. A human being is Manas. Well, anyway, this is the primary school. Their educational aids, concrete objectives, crafts, all that kind of thing. The concrete mind is related to Virgo in the lower expression of Virgo, and so this fits somehow very well. What about the monadic stage most associated with this petal? Well, units of primary radiation. Go to page 1082. We saw that. We had units of inertia, I think that, and then we had the units of rhythmic centralization, or atoms of rhythmic centralization. These are units or atoms of primary radiation. Primary means foundational radiation. The first three petals are the foundation. So this hints at the phrase primary lotuses, with the third petal unfolding. Let's just say true monastic lotuses would have the third petal unfolded. So let us think here of primary as foundational, as if knowledge is foundational. Your foundation is in place. They could work in trade schools where skills are being taught, where concrete techniques are required, good at specializing. We don't expect abstract speculation here, but we do expect intelligence in matter. We do expect inventive intelligence in matter. So Ray 5 comes in here with the specialism. They haven't necessarily integrated their personality or come off as a personality ray is there, but it isn't the primary thing, or the most emergent factor. That comes more in petal 4, I believe. So this may mean they are not yet self-directing. You need personality to be self-directing. They may be directed. They know what their job is, and they're doing it, and they're not thinking about themselves. So even with a good mind, you can be part of the mass consciousness, because you do not use your mind to think for yourself, but only to be skillful in the outer world. Well, we're getting there, because I feel I have to stop at 2 hours. I would like to do the whole thing, but I cannot because a webinar is coming up, and if I start here, it's too long. It's too long. Something like a whole page. So I think this would be the place at number 19 to say, okay, this is the end, okay, of Egoic Lotus webinar commentary program 36, and it's going to be 2 hours, and it's part 1 of the synthesis of Petal 3, and we will, this will be the place where we have the beginning of Egoic Lotus webinar commentary program 37. Don't know how long it will be. I hope to finish it, of course, in this, and it will be that won't do, and it will be part two of the synthesis of Petal 3. Okay. Getting into the groove on this, I think, to a degree, and finding that there is a lot to say of a synthetic nature. I think the strands are coming together, so let's just see. I don't know if we have I'm not going to waste time to find out. I'm going to simply, from the point of light within, and let's see whether, I think the one book where we don't have that is Cosmic Fire, so no good to search for the great invocation that way. This is the way to do it. All right, we have this, and we will begin. And using the note G, which is a good blue second ray note. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men, let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, friends, that will do it for us. We are still in the midst of Petal 3. I would have liked to have finished it, but other duties call. So we'll have to come back at this tomorrow and, hopefully before long, finish the synthesis here of each of the petals. There maybe won't be as much to say about the synthesis petals themselves. Not much is given, but we can imagine, I suppose. And when we get into the putting all of this in, well, a chart formation, we'll see even more that may be related. So for the moment then, we'll say good night or goodbye, and I'll get this sent out to you as soon as I possibly can. So all the best, whatever year you may be listening to this in. Maybe now, it may be in the 20s, it may be in the 30s, it may be never at all, but then you won't know, will you? Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.